Welcome to Season 3 of Food Waste Matters, the podcast where we have those conversations about the fight against food waste. So each episode we talk to people who are finding smarter ways to make the most of our food, from farmers and businesses to researchers and industry leaders. But reducing food waste isn't just about the environment. It's also about supporting our local growers, saving money, and making sure perfectly good food doesn't go to waste. So if you're looking for practical ideas, real conversations, and actionable solutions, Food Waste Matters is for you.
Hello. My name's Jayne Gallagher. I am the CEO of Honey & Fox, and I'm going to be your host today for this episode of Food Waste Matters. Today, I'm in conversation with Natalie Bolt. Natalie is a hospitality professional, and she's got 17 years of experience working across Middle East, Asia, and Europe. And while she was always aware of food waste in kitchens, a pivotal moment in Indonesia changed everything. Seeing food thrown out while people starved, followed by plastic-filled oceans and bleached coral, pushed her to take action. She's now led a food waste campaign that has reduced costs and marked the start of her journey into sustainability. Natalie runs her own company called Table Food Consultants, and she's known for bridging the gap between sustainability theory and daily hospitality operations, always with a focus on impact over fluff. I'm going to leave the rest of Natalie's story for hers to tell. So without further ado, let's join Natalie. Well, hello, Natalie, and welcome to Food Waste Matters.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I'm going to start today just asking with a very simple question, but it's probably a complex answer, which is, who is Natalie Bolt?
My name is Natalie Bolt. I am a chef by trade. I've been a chef for 17, maybe 18 years now, and I am the co-owner of the Table Food Consultants. So my career has led me into consulting now, and we consult for hospitality industry to create more sustainable approaches in how they're operating.
Well, that's great. So 17 years in hospitality, that's pretty good. That's pretty long, actually, for hospitality. Yeah, so you now tell us a little bit more about Table Food Consultants and how you got to where you are now. You know, what was that journey like? Because I know all the work that you're doing that I've read about, it's amazing stuff. And I think you've got a great story to tell. So just tell us a little bit about how you got here.
Okay, so at the Table Food Consultants, we really pride ourselves in having a pragmatic approach to sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about people, planet, and profit. What our service does is we bridge the gap between academia and actual practical implementation. So, as you know, I was a chef. I still am a chef for many, many years. I worked in the Middle East and Asia for most of my career. When I was in the Middle East, I seen lots and lots of food going into the bin. Thought, okay, that's not good, but didn't really think too much more of it. I moved to Indonesia, and I had this DM, and he was a psychopath. I got business. And he said one day, he was in a mood, he said, that's it. I want the food costs at 27% from 30. And I was executive sous chef at that time. So the executive chef and I sat down. He's Australian as well. And he was like, well, how are we going to do this? You know, how? So we started looking at our suppliers. And then one thing we thought was like, hey, why don't we look at our waste? And we started to do little waste audits, like checking how much waste was going in the bin, what was going in the bin. We started little activities with the team, like who can make the coolest dish this week using waste, and there was a little prize. What we discovered was, hey, our food costs dropped by 2%.
Wow.
Immediately. In about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Just from monitoring and managing. We had a huge buffet. It was a really, really big banqueting, but really, really taking notice of that, we dropped by 2%. Then, it all started from there. So probably a week after that, I went walking outside and there was, people starving on the street. I don't want to say starving. That's probably not the right word. Malnourished on the street. And I was like, hang on. What? There's something here. And I started to get more and more interested into this matter. Then maybe 2 weeks after that, I love diving. I went diving in Indonesia. And it must have been in this area where all the currents, come together.
Yeah.
And it was full of plastic.
Oh. Yeah.
There was one chip packet from hospitality, those big 5-kilo frozen chip packets. And I was like, hey, that's hospitality. We're creating an impact here. So it really started from then. And I really started to self-educate. It started to really influence the way I was cooking, influence my decisions I was making as a leader. I then moved to Thailand. We did a very similar thing there, making sure our waste was low. We had local suppliers who were working with a charity. And then I moved back to Australia in the pandemic, worked in an awesome hotel in Newcastle. It was amazing, totally sustainable. We had all local, 80% local suppliers, low waste. We had the best, like super cool. But unfortunately, I got burnout. Probably one year into that, I got burnout. And then I started to think, I took some time out of the industry and I started to think like, hang on a minute, like that's not sustainable either. So really, what is sustainable for our industry? And I started to really think more and more deeply and develop and have conversations. And what we've ended up now with is the table food consultants, a framework that we work off with little criterias that, what in people, planet, and profit, that we work off and we have as our values. And that's how we start to guide hospitality into creating more sustainable approaches.
Yeah, wow. So a really holistic approach to this.
Yeah.
So it's not about just tackling waste, just tackling water use, just tackling, energy. It is about the whole ecosystem, I guess, that operates within a hospitality venue and any business, really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. So we believe that the sustainability lies in the intersection of people, planet, and profit.
Yeah.
And with all of them, we're truly sustainable.
Do you think the issue of food waste is well known and recognised in hospitality?
I think it's known. What really refreshes me is becoming more and more a part of our conversations,
Right.
especially in the past 3 years, which is amazing. I think it's known. I think some establishments think, hey, I don't have a food waste issue. Some things we hear quite often is, I don't have a buffet. I don't really have a food waste issue. But what we know is that there's you probably have 3 to 4% more waste than you actually anticipate that you actually have food waste. So I think that the industry is becoming more and more aware, but maybe we're a little overwhelmed in how we're tackling it.
Right. And so I could see that, actually, because you're very busy, you've got a lot of things to do, and I guess this is just, oh yeah, we've got to tick the food waste box, right? So, which, is good that it's known. So talk me through, you go into an establishment, where do you start with this whole food waste issue? Where do you start?
Yeah, so for us, it's always we audit.
Right.
Why we believe in auditing. And when we say auditing, it's not like a stuffy audit but it is about separating our waste into production waste, spoilage waste, and plate waste.
Right.
Okay. And just establishing a baseline. Just establishing what is our baseline, where are we at? And it doesn't matter if you have a lot of food waste or a little bit. It's really, really important we understand where we're at, because every establishment is different. No two really are the same. You can't treat any establishment the same. So we started with a food audit waste, food waste audit.
Yep. We all knew what you meant. That's all good.
You know where I'm going, guys. Yeah, so we start with an audit. So really understanding where then as a next step, we generally choose one. What is your biggest contributor? Is it plate waste, spoilage waste, or production waste? What is bringing in the most kilos? Now, an audit can be as technical as having awesome tech that's AI is reading what's going in the bin weights, or it can really just be a luggage scale. How many kilos am I wasting?
Right.
Don't overcomplicate it, just keep it nice and simple. Then we choose what is the biggest contributor. What waste stream is our biggest contributor? And what item is our biggest contributor?
Yeah.
And then we test interventions. What's working? And, interventions can be just as simple as changing one item is storage in the fridge. It could be changing if we're wasting too much cucumber. Can we pickle it for salad instead of cutting it? Instead of just having it fresh for a salad, it's really just about testing interventions. Then we audit and remeasure. Next time you show a different biggest contributor. And slowly but surely, we're seeing our food waste drop. The key is not to overcomplicate it. That's how we approach it like this. Hospitality is busy. We don't have time by the time we're doing our rosters, our costing, our recipe costs, ordering, our covering sick for the dishy that's called in sick because he had a big night last night, or whatever we're doing, right? Whatever we're doing, we need to keep it super simple and super impactful.
Yeah, and I imagine that as trained hospitality professionals, you'd have some pretty creative ways of dealing with some of the food waste. I mean, you and I talked before about lettuce. I'd love you to share that story because I was quite amazed what you said that you could do with lettuce. I just didn't know that.
First of all, hospitality, people that work in hospitality, front of house sommeliers, chefs, we are creative beings. That's who we are. Let's say one of the biggest things we are currently seeing get wasted is the peels of fruit, right? Especially in cafes, the peels of fruit is what we see. So, watermelon, we can make a beautiful pickle to go with a salad. We can make a pickle to go with a fish. We can make a curry, a watermelon rind curry that you can cook with fish and watermelon rind, and we can cook that out. One of our biggest contributors to spoilage waste that we see, and again, these items that I'm giving us what we see. This might not be across the board. Everybody will have their own.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
But a big spoilage waste we see is lettuce and herbs, right? So lettuce, we can be making little dressings and things like that. So we always think lettuce can't really be cooked, right? But we can make, lettuce doesn't really have much taste, but we can really make gorgeous dressings made of lettuce and herbs and things like that. So really making sure we're using that. I think a really big thing that we always talk about, so when we say something like that, a chef will say back, and I can hear them already listening, well, we don't have time for that. That's not something we have time for, okay?
Yeah.
I don't have time to be looking at our trimmings and our off cuts and these things and making up recipes to go in it, okay? So what we talk about and what one of our biggest services we do is menu engineering. When we're writing a menu, if we're using watermelon in our fruit salad or in our compressed watermelon entree dish, we are going to be asking ourselves, where are we going to be putting the watermelon rind? How are we incorporating that into our menu? If we have a fresh lettuce salad or we have a salad buffet, or not a salad buffet, but a salad vitrine, something like that. And we know that we're going to be utilizing lettuce, but there's also a risk of it, going off quicker or turning bad quicker. What is our plan? What is our plan to be utilizing that lettuce before it goes bad? What is our turnover plan in there? So instead of making it another step, instead of making it another job, when we're engineering our menu, it's really, really important we're engineering it with a bit of a sustainable lens. I want to say, a sustainable lens. How are we looking at it? How are we incorporating everything into our menu already? And it's not another thought. It's just automatically done.
I think that's brilliant. So you do an audit, you do menu engineering. So you plan for waste in the beginning. You know you're going to have some. So how can you engineer the menu so that doesn't happen? That's great. And what else? Yeah.
Our third service is workshops, education.
Right.
Education. So auditing, menu engineering, and workshops. Our 3 services, very uncomplicated, but we do it very well.
Yeah. What's different about the way you run a workshop and how do you approach workshops, do you think?
All right. So for us, one thing that we're really, really adamant about is it's not death by PowerPoint. Right. We are not trying to sit a chef or a hospitality guy down that doesn't sit still for 5 minutes longer than 5 minutes at a time anyway, and have a death by PowerPoint with all the data and everything. Yeah. Although for me, I find it extremely interesting because I love things like that. We know that that's not the approach. That's not the best. It is one approach, and it is very important as well to understand the theory behind it.
Yep.
But that's not generally the approach that has impact for the hospitality audience. So how we do it is we keep it really interactive. We do a lot of demos. We do a lot of activities like, hey, we've done a waste audit as a team, as a workshop. This is our waste audit. These are our trimmings. You've got 20 minutes. Go make something like this. I'll come back. And then we'll have a look at how we can cost it, how we can price position it, and so forth like that. So we try and keep it really practical, really engaging, and we're chefs. So we're chefs. So we are training for chefs for hospitality teams.
Yeah. So let's stay with this training idea. You mentioned you are a trainer. So what role do you think education has in the longer term in bringing people into hospitality who are aware of this and who understand this? So you're not retrofitting it really, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think if the education is leveraged properly and we have really strong education in this field from apprentices coming through, my business should become redundant.
Yeah.
It should just be a thing that just happens and it naturally occurs. Education, and when I'm speaking about education, yes, there's workshops, there's private sector workshops like mine, like there's a few other businesses in this space that are doing very similar workshops and incredible education pieces and additional education pieces. But fundamentally, this is my opinion, we really, really need to be organically tying that into our apprenticeship programs, our Cert 3 and our Cert 4 kitchen management, which most apprentice chefs are going through,
right,
or our Cert 3 in hospitality, or the barista courses. Sorry, I forget what certificate that is now. So my apologies. Okay. But any courses that we're putting any professional hospitality people through, be it chefs, front of house, management, or baristas or hotel management, we need to be training and teaching about food waste, procurement, team health and well-being, how we're utilizing our energy, our water, and our profit. There is a large section of profit already in the training curriculum. Now, there is a subject, BSB is a sustainability subject, and unfortunately that has just moved from being a core subject to an elective subject. So we need to be bringing that back as a core subject, and we need to be training in every subject, how we're utilizing our waste, how are we doing this, why are we doing this, when we're teaching pickling, preserving, dry aging.
Yeah.
how we can be leveraging this in our businesses to create longevity of shelf life.
Yeah. Well, I could see that. It's got to be integrated into and woven into the curriculum, doesn't it? And so that the people working in the industry come in with that mindset. And I mean, that's a long-term play, and that's great. If you could see one big shift in the hospitality industry to really move that needle about waste in all its forms, but let's talk about food waste, what would it be, and how, what's your idea? Is there a big idea that you could? Yeah.
So in my opinion, in my vision, and what we believe and what we're working towards is that there would be a clear framework. So that framework is not going to be a one size fits all solution. That framework is going to have to be adapted to different kind of food service businesses, very similar to what Food Waste Australia, they do their sector action plans, right? Different sectors have a different action plan, and this is so on the money. And having this framework that is very clear, these are the actions that we need to be taking. This is let's think about HACCP for a minute.
Yep.
HACCP has a clear framework. It has a clear critical control point, right? When we're at this point, we need to create action because we're going over into the danger zone. We need a very, very similar thing for food waste, for holistic sustainability.
Yeah.
And that framework is going to have to be adapted for each sector to what is achievable for the different size businesses, but also for the different types of waste, food waste that they're contributing or they're producing, different types of food waste that they're producing, and the different sizes of teams as well.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point, because a lot of what we see, not all the time, but a lot of what we see, it's okay for a bigger organization who might have a big team and, they've got people responsible for different things to get the food out on the table, to get service done. But there's everything from that to, one or two person operations, and they've all got food waste. And so what works at this level won't work here and won't work here. And I hear that a lot. Well, that's okay for them, but it doesn't work in my business. How do you respond to that? You must get that.
All the time we get that. The first is, I don't have the financial capabilities to be able to buy an orca or a composting machine or something like that, right? Or I don't have the time because we're only 2 men or 2 women or, 2 team. So how we respond is always, first of all, we got to meet people where they're at. You got to meet where you're at, and again, just create small, simple interventions. Everybody has food waste. Doesn't matter what size of operation you are. Generally speaking, you will have food waste, and waste in general. So understanding what your waste is, where is it coming from, and creating that intervention. I think that's the same across the board. Of course, your financial inputs will be different. If you can't afford a composting machine, you don't need one. You really don't. There's incredible businesses around that come and pick up your food waste and go and compost it and then put it back in the farms, and it has an awesome circular economy.
Yeah.
There's heaps of local businesses. One in Brisbane I was just thinking about yesterday. They go and pick up food waste from cafes and push it around. Now, food waste, obviously compost is not quite the answer because it is still waste, but it's also about reducing it before it's getting to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We always talk about in food waste, you reduce it, and what you can't reduce, you transform it, so that at the end there's very little and hopefully none. Well, that sounds amazing, Natalie. I'm going to finish up now, but I'm going to give you the last word, or maybe the second last word. And the second last word is, I imagine that you've probably inspired some people with some of the things you've been talking about. How can they get in contact with you? And what do you provide? Now, I think you told me the other day you've got a couple of downloadable templates and things on your website. Do you want to just explain what that is? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you. So we are the Table Food Consultants. Please reach out to us. Go to our website, which is thetablefoodconsultants.com.au. On our website, we have a resource area that you can pop in your email, and there is a quick guide to how to create a food waste audit. There is some labels for your bins, and there is a template that you can be filling out your weight in there and your interventions, so you can have a little bit of a record of it. We've got lots of different resources in there as well. We also have blogs. We've written blogs on food waste, how we see it, different interventions that we've tried that works. And most importantly, my phone number is there and my email is there.
Perfect.
Just give me a call. At the end of the day, we're chefs. We've been in the hospitality industry for a very, 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 very long time. But the point is that we understand that operations is not perfect. We are going to bridge the gap between academia to operations and help you to save some money that is actually going into your bin that is getting wasted on the supply chain or something like that. So please give us a call, even if it's just for a chat, to share ideas, anything. We're absolutely here.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for doing this recording with me. I know you're over in Sri Lanka at the moment, and this is a testament to great technology. Got to love it.
It's amazing. Right?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So we're going to put all of those links in the show notes for everyone. And this episode will be coming out very soon. And so thank you once again for everything. I already follow you. So I'm going to keep following you and see what amazing things you're going to do next. So thank you so much.
For your time. Thank you for the platform. And yeah, just keep doing the amazing work that you're doing as well.
So that brings us to the end of our conversation today with Natalie from Table Food Consultants. We've heard how Natalie had a bit of a moment with food waste and what led her to establish a company. So in that company, she's focusing on the triple bottom line in hospitality. That's people, planet, and profit. And as she says, the focus is needed on all three. We delved into several issues in hospitality, and Natalie spoke about her 3-step approach to helping businesses with their sustainability journey and how managing food waste is an integral part of that. Starting with a food waste audit to understand what the problem is and where to start managing it. Engineering menus that plan for waste and how it will be managed by incorporating that waste into the menu, as well as talking about the importance of getting the whole team involved. Remembering that hospitality professionals are really creative people and they don't want to sit through PowerPoint presentations. So the workshops she runs, interactive, and use the creativity in the room to come up with practical solutions. As you said, food waste can't be an add-on. It cannot be an extra task for people to do. The back end of hospitality venues are very, very busy. It needs to be integrated into what they do. So then we also zoomed out to the bigger picture. So what needs to happen to change on a bigger scale, to change what we're doing now? You can do it venue by venue, but what's some of the big things, the big steps that we can do? And that led us to a conversation about the role of education at the apprentice and the pre-apprentice levels. So there's a lot to unpack here in this episode, but the big takeaway for me is to just start. Take one step. And as Natalie said, it doesn't have to cost money. You don't have to buy expensive equipment. The solution is actually probably staring you right in the face. So with Natalie's contact details, I've included all of those in the show notes, and I encourage you to check out her website and the resources that she has there. If you are in hospitality and you want to start managing your triple bottom line of people, planet, profit, give her a call. She'd love to chat. And if today's discussion sparked your interest, or if you have your own food waste reduction initiatives you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. You can find all the links mentioned today in the show notes, and don't hesitate to reach out with your stories or questions at foodwastematters@honeyandfox.com.au. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Food Waste Matters. And remember that each small change we can make can lead to significant environmental benefits. So let's keep pushing those boundaries and exploring ways to reduce food waste in our own lives and in our communities. Until next time, bye-bye.